the holidays inherently are given so much weight. Like, this is the one time of year you're supposed to tell everyone in your life how much they mean to you. You're supposed to make everyone feel special and appreciated. And every get together is supposed to be special and magical. But man, Aloo, it can feel like a lot of pressure for everyone. Welcome to the Love Your Brain podcast, the podcast designed for everyday people who are ready to hop off the negative thought hamster wheel and enjoy a less hostile environment in their own brains. Our brains are where we live our entire lives, and I'm on a mission to help people see that they have everything they need to make it a happier place to be. So join us for this episode of the Love Your Brain podcast. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Love Your Brain podcast, or welcome if you're new. Now, this time of year can be really tricky for a lot of people. As we're quickly approaching the holidays, I just thought it would be helpful and a good time to give your brain some helpful reminders. Now, these are reminders of things that we often forget, especially when we're in the midst of chaotic or stressful life situations, or during times when maybe we're interacting with people that we don't see every day, like family or friends, during gatherings that there maybe could be a lot of pressure. And sometimes when we're caught up in all of that, our brains just go into autopilot and start telling us a narrative that may not be entirely accurate. So here are just some easy reminders for this holiday season. Okay, number one is to remember that everyone, including ourselves, is looking at the world through their own lens. I know we hear this a lot, but I think it's helpful to really talk about how deep this goes. Everyone is operating from their own perspective, which is often affected by their own challenging past, their own traumas. Everyone sees and interprets the world around them differently based on this lens that's been created by their life experiences. And then from that, they respond from that same lens, which again is impacted by all the things that each person has experienced in their life. So, what that means is the behaviors of our loved ones are often coming from a place of whatever has harmed them in the past or whatever traumas have happened that maybe haven't been addressed. For example, think about some of your aunts and uncles and the way that they were brought up. Now, maybe you don't know their whole history and how they were raised, but I can tell you, as someone who has had conversations with people in those generations, that a lot of them didn't grow up with a ton of nurturing and gentleness. A lot of them were in homes with either strict rules or very absent parents. They probably were not cared for in the ways that we care for children today in healthy households. So, is your great Aunt Sally really hard on you? Is she not super caring? Maybe she's even a little crotchety or harsh. Well, that could be because her upbringing wasn't the greatest. And maybe she doesn't even know how or hasn't been exposed to the ways a person can tackle some of those issues. Maybe she doesn't even know how to address her traumas. So just know she's looking at you and looking at the life that you live and responding to you from this lens that she has, that she's seeing the world around her through. And underneath that could be a lot of unresolved pain. And she may not even know it's pain. That's the crazy part, right? Like sometimes these lenses that we see the world from just seem normal, and we think that everyone else is living that same experience. And that's not always the case. And the truth is, we forget. We forget so much of this. And instead, we can make someone else's behavior, like our crotchety Aunt Sally, mean something about us or create conflict that's unnecessary. Because, in fact, the behaviors of someone else may mean way more about them and all of the things that they've experienced in their lifetime than what it means about us as a person. It really means very little. So, once we can understand that, not only does it not affect us personally so much, it also becomes a little bit less triggering. And so it doesn't really elicit the same extreme response from us either. So, did they react harshly to you? Maybe. Maybe you even said something that triggered them. It's like someone having an opened wound and you accidentally touch it or unknowingly poke it. It's going to hurt really bad, right? Because this is like an opened wound. But it's probably going to hurt more than it would if you touch them on healthy, intact skin. Now, That's just an understanding of the experience that a lot of people are having walking around in the world with unresolved issues, right? Does that make it okay for people to be mean or unkind to you and react harshly to you? No, not at all. But does it give you a reference point for where it's coming from and how to translate that information? Yes. And this means a few things for us. For one, it means that you're able to cut yourself some slack, give yourself some grace. Try not to overthink. If you are someone who is constantly analyzing others' behaviors towards you or leaving conversations second guessing yourself, wondering if you said the wrong thing, you really have very little control over someone else's reaction to you. We like to think that we can have control over that we have control over someone else's behaviors or reactions towards us. Like maybe if we're really nice, then they'll really like me, right? That's what our brains tell us. But unfortunately, as humans, we're way more complex than that because every response to a person comes from looking at all of the interactions through that lens that is affected and colored by all the experiences we've had in our lives. Someone who had a lot of really negative interactions from a young age, maybe they didn't even grow up in a loving home, or maybe they grew up around people that acted nice, but it never felt sincere, it just felt fake. That all impacts how they see you when you show up to an interaction just wanting to be nice. You could be having a very small conversation where you're trying to act quote unquote nice to them, and it could in fact be triggering for them, and you don't even know because they are remembering that person in their past that acted kind but maybe hurt them. And now that's impacting how they're interacting with you in this moment where you come with pure intentions, just wanting to be nice so that you can have a good relationship with them. So just keep that in mind. This lens that we see the world through impacts all of our interactions. So try not to overthink things. There is so much we don't see and then we don't know. Now, what I'm not saying is that you're never going to be at fault for hurting someone this season, right? Of course not. We all sometimes hurt another person. We behave in a way that we probably shouldn't. There are things that happen just because we're humans, right? But what I'm saying is when someone is responding to you harshly or reacting to you in a way that's unexpected, then often it's safer to actually assume that it's something that they're going through, assume the best about you, and that that's probably an experience that they're having that you don't fully understand, and that's okay. Let them tell you if there's actually an underlying problem they need to talk to you about instead of just ruminating on the possibility of a problem. So try not to put too much weight on any interactions during this holiday season. Everyone is stressed, and that puts extra stressors on that wonky lens we're each seeing the world through. But I think that is a lot easier said than done because the holidays inherently are given so much weight. Like, this is the one time of year you're supposed to tell everyone in your life how much they mean to you. You're supposed to make everyone feel special and appreciated. And every get together is supposed to be special and magical. But man, Aloo, it can feel like a lot of pressure for everyone. And I think it's especially hard in seasons, especially like this, where we're giving gifts and attempting to show everyone in our life that they're special to us, right? Like this doesn't typically happen at any other time of year where we're supposed to show everyone in our life how much they mean to us and how special they are. So, first of all, just go out the gate with don't read too much into anything. Don't read too much into interactions, but also don't read too much into how someone shows their appreciation for you during this time, especially during the holidays. Did someone maybe not get you a gift and you gave them something really meaningful? Well, that could be because of 9 million different reasons. They could have different values, different resources, different mental resources in this moment, or even different narratives about how a person should show love. All those things come into play. So, without a clear understanding of all of those things for that person, which honestly is virtually impossible to get inside their brain like that, we really can't judge it or know the why behind it. So, just take it with a grain of salt. But I know this is so hard. Our brains desire to understand the meaning behind so much because it wants to know, wait, is this situation where I felt a little tension with this person, is this a sign of a potential threat? Like maybe this person doesn't like me, maybe they don't like what I did, maybe that person's mad at me, or why did I make that awkward by doing that too much? Our brains scan everything to see what might be an indication of a potential threat because back in the caveman days, we had to rely on each other so much that if our neighbor was mad at us, it might mean they might not bring food back for our family. So that was a much bigger threat than it is today. Not to say that someone being mad at you shouldn't hurt you, but it just should not completely destroy you. And often it does because our brains think we're still in that mode of community where our survival depends on each other and depends on people liking us and getting along with us. But usually in these scenarios, there's no actual life or death threat. There isn't death lurking around the corner. It's simply something on the other person's end impacting how they're acting or responding to you. And last but not least, we are all at different places on our journeys. I remember recently I was having a conversation with a family member about their feelings. Now, this family member was in their 70s, and maybe you know where I'm going with this already now that I've said this person's age, but I was asking direct questions about how they feel about various situations. What were their emotions? And they just looked at me blankly for a while and then said, "Well, I don't know that I've given that much thought." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And they were like, "Well, I haven't really thought about how I feel about it." Needless to say, for me, as someone who talks about feelings all day, every day, this was mind boggling to me, but a great reminder for me that we are all at different places on our journey. There are plenty of people, millions of people probably on this planet, that don't regularly think in the same way that I think. Everyone's brain, everyone's lens is so different. You here listening to this podcast, clearly dedicating time to learning about your own brain that tells me something, right? But there are also so many humans out there that don't give their brains a second thought. And we need to have compassion for them, to be quite honest, because being critical of people that aren't at the place that we're at really just isn't helpful. It usually lends itself to having negative interaction with the person or being judgmental, and no effective change happens in that energy. It's a much better scenario if we just stay in our own lane, continue to work on ourselves, and maybe eventually the people around us will see that change. Ask us about it, and then we have the open door to share the kind of work that we're doing to make our brains work differently. So let's just do a little recap. Number one, it's important to remember during this holiday season that everyone is operating from their own lens. Everyone sees and responds to the world differently based on their own life experiences. And for a lot of people, that means responding from a wounded place. Second, we all put just too much weight on the holiday season. So remember that the holidays are a weird time. The holidays don't have to define your entire year. There's a lot of unnecessary pressure, and we don't have to make everything mean something. There doesn't have to be meaning behind absolutely everything. Third, everyone is in a different place on their own journey, and you can't expect everyone around you to understand where you're at and be working on their own mental health like you do. But be an example, and maybe someday they'll come by and ask you for some advice. So, the big takeaway here is try to just take this whole season with a grain of salt. Don't expect too much from yourself or others. Don't apply too much meaning to anything. And really just find the light, fun, funny, and enjoyable parts and enjoy them with all that you can. And then just float along on your merry way. If I was really clever, I would have come up with a good, fun song for this. But just remember, linger in the fun moments and then just keep floating along to the next one. Not overthinking things, but just floating along to your next thing, your next experience of joy. Don't make everything mean something. Don't let these experiences define you, but just float along your merry way. Find your next nugget of joy, soak up those moments, and then move along on your merry way. Once we take away the weightiness of it all, it really can be a time where we are just lighthearted and are able to just enjoy the enjoyable parts of the season. So, my hope is that those reminders will help you keep your own brain in check in terms of how to enjoy this holiday season and not let it suck the life out of you. But I wish you all well, and I will see you all next week. Have a great week, guys. I hope you found something helpful here today on the Love Your Brain podcast. Maybe a laugh or a feeling of validation, or maybe just a few moments to have company while you do your laundry. Whatever you take from it, I hope you enjoyed your time and leave feeling empowered to be more you every day. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on the next episode, and leave a review. I'd love to hear what you think. Have a great one.